Welcome to episode 191 of Bledsoe Said So. We have a very, very honorable special guest with us here in the studio today. Real quick, I just wanted to talk about an event coming up in May in Delavan, Wisconsin. From May 2nd to May 4th, my father, my wife, and I will be at the Contact Modalities Expo. My dad will be the keynote speaker. It's going to be an awesome event. There's going to be like 3 conference rooms running simultaneously throughout the whole weekend with like all kinds of amazing, there's going to be like shamans, breath workers, yoga, crystal bowl therapists. It's going to be insane. And we're going to do a Skywatch Friday night. We're going to have a cocktail party on Saturday with a DJ. Everybody's going to be hanging out in a big luncheon, and it's really going to just be like a party, but consciousness themed. So anyway, hope to see you guys there. You can get your tickets at contactmodalitiesxpo.com. Now, the guest that we have in the studio today is incredible. I met her last year at the Monroe Institute. I hope this is okay that I introduce you as the CEO of the Monroe Institute. We have Allyn Evans. Welcome, Allyn.
Hey. Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, very like shocked that you were willing to do this. I mean,
it's my pleasure.
We are incredibly blessed.
Honored.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially after just having a really, really cool experience just a couple months ago with the
Ignacio.
Oh, Creation Station. Yes, one of our programs. Yeah.
It really was profound. So it's been in our heads. It's fresh in our heads a lot, so it's exciting. Very excited.
That's the neat thing about it, is that we want you to have the experience. So that's what we're doing. We're setting up experience for you, and that's the game changer.
Yeah, it really is. It was profound. It was awesome. And we've been so busy, we still have yet to like dive deep into what happened and our personal experiences and stuff. But I mean, it truly was so profound and life-changing, and Ignacio's amazing.
Yes.
It was a blessing.
Ignacio's a brother for sure. He's an amazing human being. I think we finally figured out what, like, next week we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, like finally. On the show.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll watch that episode.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was great. We did it back in
December.
Yeah.
It's just been that busy.
It really has.
But I'm excited about that. It was amazing. It was transformative. And I think you know what that's like.
Yes.
Being the CEO of Monroe. So I'd love to get into that. I know you've told me this story twice. I know we talked about it over dinner. Jenny said, I know you're going to talk about it, but you told the story, but I would love to hear again in as much or as little detail as you like what was your journey becoming the CEO of Monroe?
So in my late 20s, I got on this mission that I wanted to be more psychic. And after I got to graduate school in Lubbock, Texas, I started having these experiences, these introductions to this psychic world. And it made me curious, first of all, so I started reading a lot of books, pre-internet. So it was books, library books, and then there was a bookstore called the Odyssey Bookstore.
Love that name.
Had weird books in it.
Yeah.
Really strange books that I had never, ever been exposed to before, So once I got to Lubbock, Texas, my world was changed. And one of the first books I read was by Edgar Cayce.
Right.
The Sleeping Prophet.
Awesome. We talk about him
on
the show.
What got my attention was there was this man who could predict things, and it was verifiable.
Yeah.
So that was like, okay. So I just got on this quest, and then I had some experiences with psychics, and I thought, I want to learn how to do this myself. I don't want as I say, the middleman. I want to I want to know myself. Because also that person, that psychic, is an interpreter sometimes.
Right.
So if I have my own experience, I'm interpreting it. So I was like, okay, how do I do this? And so I started reading books. I still continued to read books. And I realized about the third book in of a psychic trying to teach me how to be a psychic, that they came into this world gifted, what I considered gifted already. They didn't have to learn. I mean, I was in my late 20s.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't psychic, know?
Right.
And so I knew I had to learn a different way. So then I was like, okay, I got to put a program together. And I also wanted to, once I do that, I can teach it to everybody. So then I, again, read books. And I put together dream analysis, meditating. And I didn't really know what meditating was. I would read a book and try to do what they said. But it started working. Then as I was reading these books, there were authors who would mention the Monroe Institute.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, where is this place? And this is a mystery. But it was pre-internet again. So I didn't know much about it, where it was, how I was going to find it. And then I had a child. That means I got,
put it on the back burner. Yeah.
Right. And it took me until 2008 to get back to it.
I was wondering, that clarifies.
Now I do want to say something here, though. I still was dabbling, even though I was focused on family and raising my daughter. It wasn't that I gave it all up. I just wasn't seeking it on the same level. So I was still doing dream analysis and still meditating when I could find time. But it was kind of directionless. And
dream analysis, I'm sorry. Dream analysis, you mean you're waking up and immediately like kind of interpreting your dreams, writing down.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
And for me, I feel like for anyone searching, I really think that's a key way, or one of the key ways to do it, because you learn a nonverbal language. You also learn, and the way I look at it is, okay, if I I have a symbol of a rose in a dream, then because I've worked with this and made interpretations about different symbols, then I've got a communication system. So either my higher self or total self or guides can send me messages because they know what I think it will be. It took many years, for me to do that, but I always can figure things out now because I've created that language.
Wow.
That's a fascinating way to describe it.
That's profound.
Like your guides know what you're looking for kind of thing, and so they can send you little hints and stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
So just as an example, a simplistic example, and you've had this dream before where your teeth are falling out.
I haven't,
but
I've heard of this. I
hate it.
All right. So as I worked with it, I decided or figured out that meant, and I used the dream dictionaries, to get some of my information, but I would exclude the superstitions. So if it's like, if your teeth are falling out, financial doom ahead, I would just go, no, that's not what's happening here.
Edgar Cayce has a wonderful
dream dictionary,
right? Yeah, I reference his a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to be careful, your source, definitely.
Yeah.
But I now forgot where I was.
Your teeth are falling out.
All right.
Working. Yeah.
Oof.
Okay. So your teeth are falling out. So I decided or determined that when I had that dream, that it meant I was giving away my personal power.
Oh, wow.
So then I could go back to the day before or, a few days before to try to figure out when I did it. And then you learn.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So meditation's the same way. You're in a meditation, you get information, and then you can apply, look at what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm big on that because I have a psychology degree, undergrad, and learning about
oh,
really?
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
Nice.
I was curious about that too.
Yeah.
That's amazing. We really have a similar path.
Yes.
I majored. I just didn't get a degree.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like the similarities between our background, and I resonate with a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah.
Personally, and always being curious about dreams. I've never had a good source for dream dictionary. It's kind of just Google. So I would love.
Well, actually, I found that to be a good one now.
Okay.
But just because of all the information that's out there, it seems to pull the best definitions. But it didn't used to. But now that's what I do. I just Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Does Jung ring a bell? Carl Jung?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, like the collective unconscious.
Yep.
That's kind of hitting on the same concept, right? Like the subconscious knows these archetypal symbols. So I guess that makes sense. Like your guides or your higher self or whoever is like, here's this symbol that you can interpret that has some sort of meaning that, so that's fascinating stuff.
So anyway, I was doing all these things, read about the Institute, and then I got distracted. And then in 2008, November 2008, my daughter and I went to the bookstore, and I just didn't have anything I was thinking about buying, so I just walked up and down an aisle, and I saw this book. And the book was The Journey of Robert Monroe. And I was like, this is it. And so of course.
Because you've been hearing about him.
Yes, and I'd been reading about it. So I had to, I bought it, of course. And I bought it, and I read it really quickly. And before I'd finished reading it, I had bought the entire Gateway series, the Gateway Wave series.
Right.
At the time, there were 6. Now there are 8.
Discs, right?
Series. So each series has 6, I think, 5 or 6 exercises.
Oh, wow.
Or
nice.
meditations.
Nice.
So I just blew through that. And the interesting thing is, I've talked to people over the years. Some people, you'll do it one of 2 ways. You'll either just go through it like I did, like I'll do this, then I'm going to do this, keep doing it. And I might make a note. I'll go back to that one. Or you want to master it. So you'll keep listening to the same exercise over and over and over until you feel like you're ready for the next one. So I was the first way. I just
barreled right through it.
Barreled right through it.
I love that because I've heard from people at the Institute, I've heard both ways recommended, or people saying, like Ignacio, for example, he talks like the second path, like, master and then move. And then it's interesting to hear from you. Yeah. I'm more like you. I just want to blow through it.
Yeah. So I blew through it. And before I was through, I was like, I have to go. I don't care how I go. I don't have the money. I don't care. And I had to figure out what to do with my young daughter, which I did. And then I was there by March. So read the book in November, 2008, there in March. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 4 or 5 months.
And the minute I walked into the place, and I think we've had this conversation before, I was overwhelmed by this feeling of you are home.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful.
And I wasn't expecting it. I'm just showing up.
Never
nervous about what am I getting myself into. And that was like, it was washed over me. You are home.
Yeah, you went by yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it is brave. You said it earlier. It is brave.
I didn't know anybody to ask
to
go with me.
It's still like that can be kind of scary. You've never been to this place. You don't know exactly. You're reading about it.
Yeah, and I actually this is funny. So I coached myself on the way there, and I was like, okay. You just don't have to talk to people. They'll all be weird. And so you can just, you just hang out by yourself. It'll be okay. You can do that for a week. That's, what I told myself. Yeah. Of course, I didn't, people are normal and regular and fun. And I didn't have to do that. Right. I didn't have to do that. It was a great group of us that showed up. But
so then back then, you said 2008, 2009?
Mm-hmm. 2008 read the book. 2009 got there.
It was just a gateway, or
they had a few more programs. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. What kind of program?
So it's our core programs that we still have, like Guidelines, Lifeline, Heartline. So they already had those programs going.
Cool. Okay.
But we've added a lot, since.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be doing Guidelines in July.
Yay.
I'm very excited. I'm very excited. I have no idea what to expect, but I didn't for Gateway, and my expectations were far exceeded.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, every thought that you're describing that you had, I had. I'm nervous. I'm not going to make friends, even though it's all content creators.
Right.
I'm like, I'm not going to make friends. I'm going to be the weird guy. And then I get there and I'm actually like the normal guy.
Right.
We're all normal.
Right.
And we're all cool and we're all friends. And
well, the beauty of it is every program is different, but it's an interesting group that shows up. Mm-hmm. And it can be a 70-year-old there with a 20-something-year-old, and it just from all backgrounds. And it's wonderful because you meet people that you maybe haven't, the type of person maybe you haven't met before, but it's so supportive that it just works.
Yeah.
It just works.
I think of Monroe just having been there once and then staying in contact, as and
yeah, we can't get rid of you.
I don't think that'll be an easy task at this point. But just having been there myself, the feeling that I get is Monroe really is just like a great beacon that attracts people who are like you described, like I have been through, like these guys also, have felt at some point that like sometimes you're just in deep need of an experience of something other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I do feel like Monroe is that great place where people can go and they can have that real, genuine experience with the other.
Right.
But it's not weird. It's not scary.
Right.
It's actually pretty normal.
Right.
And maybe even a little scientific.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and people have different motivations too. So you might really be into remote viewing, and that's your motivation. Maybe you want to have an out of body. That's your motivation. I was wanting to be more psychic.
Psychic, yeah.
I wanted to learn more about myself.
Yep. That's a really good motivation.
And I did.
That's a better motivation.
I mean, it's the same thing, really.
But that's what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it branches off into so many different subsects and like these really like the Heartline and the Lifeline and that stuff is so fascinating to me. I'd love to do one of those one day. That'd be really awesome. But I had a blast doing Creation Station, and even doing it from home.
Yeah.
Like over Zoom. I'm like, is this really gonna be? Before we did it, I'm like, okay, this will be cool, but is it really gonna be that big a deal? Day one, we did it, and I was like, oh man, I don't know what I expected, but it's kind of blowing me away.
Yeah.
It was so awesome. So I just love what you guys do. It's really cool. It's really unique, and we said on the episode with what was his name?
Which one, Arky?
Yeah, Arky.
Yeah.
Such an awesome guy.
Trainers,
That was a great episode, and we said it on the episode with him. It's like this is the only thing of its kind.
Yeah.
Really, the only thing there is like this, and I love that it's like backed by data, and it's also kind of data oriented, but it's not all about the data.
Right.
It's more it's
about the experience.
It's the experience.
Yeah.
That is the number one thing.
And it's also small and intimate.
Yeah.
You know, our venues keep us locked in to certain numbers, and so one venue is 24 or can go up to 26 participants, and the other is 20. Yeah, so you're not going to go to a program and be with 500 people.
Right. I never really thought about it like that. Yeah, that is a very good point.
The trainers are there with you, all the time, or most of the time, except when they're sleeping.
Yeah, that's true.
Do they always do the experience with the class too?
No, someone has to be running the control room.
Yes, true. Okay, good point.
But what we'll do is we'll swap off, and so.
Take shifts.
A little insider
Yeah.
secret there. I mean, that's exactly what I would do.
Take shifts.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Man.
But a lot of times we're in the control room together, but we'll say, hey, I really want to do this one, and
Sometimes I notice like it would be one voice going under, and then it would be another voice coming out.
Right.
Oh, like going into the exercises and coming out of the exercises?
Yeah, because it's not like when we did virtual. When you're there residential, there's another well, at least at the top of the mountain. I haven't experienced the bottom of the mountain. But there's another building where they speak into a microphone, making sure everybody's ready to go into the meditation. And it's like all these check units are linked, and there's a switch that you flip, and once all the lights are green, then
red,
right? Yeah,
she's on it.
Hey, I'm not gonna argue.
But we call it, well, it's not red. They're blue. We call it ready lights.
Yeah. I did go in that room one time. I got to see the amazing setup there, and it's awesome. But anyway, so it's like they're talking to you live from another location. Simultaneously, everybody's hearing the trainer's voice, like, okay, this is the parameters of this exercise,
for the purpose.
And
And the other location, we're all in the same building.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Other location, it's not in Virginia. There's
no.
Well, it is. We have two campuses, or two venues,
Gotcha.
a mile apart.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. Top of the mountain and bottom of the mountain.
Yes.
Okay.
There's two like buildings, like
gotcha.
Facilities, but it's all in the same area. But
I wonder what the a place so special like this that is truly one of a kind. I wonder what like the prolific, like the number of people that come, has it grown exponentially? It seems like the past couple of years I've heard more people talking about Monroe than ever.
And that's by design.
Okay. I had wondered, like, is it just because we are starting to talk about it more here?
No. Since I started in the position I'm in now, we have been initiating a high growth strategy. And so we've been doing a lot of different things, and now we're seeing the result of it.
This is a great segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about. Your mission.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. The the thing that I took away from Monroe that had me so motivated to continue on my journey trying to, be a part of Monroe was when I spoke to you, and of course from the trainers, and I heard your mission. So let's talk about that.
So this happened before I got there. They created the mission, and it's to reach 1% of the world's population. That's what we were saying. So when I got there, when we had our first in-person board meeting, we decided we need to say a little bit more. We need to figure this out a little bit more, because we weren't tracking it. We were just saying it. And then we really hadn't define it yet. Like, what is that? What do we mean?
What's the number?
Yeah. Or no, well, we had the number, but what were we wanting those 80 people to do?
80 million, right?
I mean,
80 million.
Did I say 80?
80 people. That's 80, easy.
80 million
we got
people
that easy.
to do.
80 million.
80 million people to do. And so we defined it as having a direct experience. So what we count now is your first time that we can figure out having a direct experience.
Wow. Okay,
And we measure it every quarter. We pull our numbers, we look at it, and we're still a little behind. But we're working on it. We're working on it. Yeah.
That's amazing, because I know in the very beginning of the Institute, Robert Monroe himself had a similar mission, and it was M5000, right?
Wanting to reach a lot of people.
Yeah, he wanted to reach 5,000 people. He believed that if he reached 5,000, that it would change the world. And they found out that they actually reached that very quickly.
Right. Yeah.
And the world didn't change.
Yeah, and here we are. But I love that. That's amazing. Trying to engage. It's like when I learned that, because my initial thought about Monroe before I had gone for myself, as you know, my dad had been, my sister had been, and I've known a lot of people throughout my life who had told me about Monroe, let me listen to some tapes. So I had a little bit of an introduction, but I didn't really know what you were about. I knew what you were, but I didn't know what you were about. And when I found out what you were about, I realized that it was just such an amazing mission, so...
Yeah, that 80 people we're going to reach.
We probably do that every week.
Right.
But that's amazing.
It probably is something like 80 people every week, huh? Probably more
Oh, it's more than that.
Probably way
It's
more.
more than that.
Yeah, way more. It's been millions by now, for sure.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Like throughout the whole, what are we coming up on? Just over 50 years now.
Even our YouTube has over 1 million.
Wow,
Really?
that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, but a lot of this has happened in the last 2 years.
The momentum has hit a different stride. It's hit a completely new stride.
Yep.
Which it's amazing. And I mean, I think a lot of people need this in a very serious way.
Right.
And I think it's saving a lot of people.
Absolutely. I can tell you it saved me.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Oh, I love hearing stories and reading people's experiences, because it's all about self-evolution. Bob Monroe said he looks at this as the Earth-life system. So we're here, and we're given let's say the hand that we're dealt is to help us reach our highest potential. So with that hand, then we play it. And if we have help and we learn tools that help us play it better, we're more likely to reach that highest potential for ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's where Monroe comes in. Let's give you some additional insight.
That's amazing.
It's really profound, because there are a lot of people it's the drive to experience something like that, to experience something and know that you're more than your body is the most important thing in their lives, and without it, it's like they're purposeless, or they're lost, or distraught.
Yeah, but sometimes you're lost and you're trying to figure things out, and that's just part of your journey to,
It really is profound, and that's my favorite part about what we do with our show is reading the people who reach out and say, your show has really helped me, and I feel like I have a community, or I feel like I can be myself with you guys, and feel like I'm in the room with you guys,
right.
And then meeting them in person is like the
takes it to the next level.
It's so profound, and it really it fills me with a sense of, okay, I'm impacting positive change.
Right.
It's
what I wish everyone could do though is, and sometimes it's hard, and I've been in situations where it's been hard, but to remind ourselves that this is the Earth life system. This is a game that we're playing. And then we just need to play it the best we can as it unfolds for us. And if we can step more into the observer role, which is what that is, then it's a little easier.
Yeah.
That's profound.
Yeah, and it's,
Yeah, it's a beautiful
and we're
thing.
Lucky to be here.
Yeah.
Having this experience,
Absolutely.
No matter the hand we're dealt.
Yeah, absolutely. Gratitude is a hugely important thing. Like, just to be here, when I'm going through the lowest lows in life, gratitude is the thing that pulls me out. I'm lucky to be going through this horrible, dark thing right now.
Yeah.
If you look at the statistics, the chances of us being here versus the amount of people that could have been here, astronomically different.
Yeah.
That reminds me of something that I experienced in Gateway or
Creation
Station.
Yeah.
Is I went in with my mantra, and what I learned was that unlimited gratitude leads to unlimited wealth. And that the gratitude directly is responsible for having unlimited wealth. It's interesting that popped up.
That's amazing. Two things to say about that. One, just the other day, my sister sent me a psychological study or some kind of study. I can't remember. And it's like proven that when you actively practice gratitude, that the parts of your brain that process anxiety are dampened. Like neurologically, just actively practicing gratitude.
The same with meditation.
Right.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. In terms of the practicing gratitude thing, just this week, just 2 days ago, I think, my wife Casey was having a tough day at work. Just one of those days where you're just getting beat up from every angle, and you're like, I can't win today, and whatever. And she was really, really down. And we eat lunch together every day because we work for the same company, so we go and have lunch together. And I told her when I was heading back, I told her, just for the next 10 minutes, list every single thing in your life that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
The biggest things down to the tiniest little things that you take for granted, and just do not stop until you can't even think of things to, because I do that. Just, maybe a year and a half ago before moving here was just a tough time in life. It just happens.
You're going to have them.
It's like, it's like seasons, and
it's natural.
Yeah. And they come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You're like, where in the world did this come from?
And you're growing from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But the problem is some people aren't aware of that.
Right. Some people think it's going to be this way forever, too.
And they suffer.
Yeah.
And how fortunate I feel to know that it's just a temporary
season.
thing. Yes, it's seasonal. And like you said, I almost, when you're in it, it's, it feels horrible. But there's that little thought in the back of my head, like, I'm going to be better because of this.
Yep.
I'm going to get out of this. But for a while, it was like just crushing. Gratitude was the one thing. It's the one thing. Literally going on a walk and saying out loud, everything I see around me, I'm grateful for. Everything I have in my life, I wouldn't have made it through.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
Another one I like to use, especially if I'm dealing with someone that's either adversarial or upset with me, is in my head, just repeat, I love you, I love you, I love you.
I knew you were going to say that. I don't know how, but
I've never thought of that.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to just like aggressive.
And you might not see it switching in that moment, but it starts turning. Yeah. Just, so instead of attacking back, you just send out love.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about an experience that I had at Gateway?
Yes.
I kind of was curious because it seems like based on our conversation earlier, you had a similar experience when we were talking at lunch. But when I was at Gateway last summer, I was at a really hard place in life. I had just bought this house. The day before, so I got to the Creator Gateway June 15th. The day before, we had just stopped doing construction work on this house after a 3-month very stressful period. My head was messed up when I got there, but I had to go. It was like the best opportunity in my life. And I get there, and I learned so many tools from Gateway. You know, the energy conversion box, the reball, yeah, and all of those different tools, and even the focus levels, and there was a couple instances there. Some of them were, I don't know if I would say out of body. I definitely did go out of body one or two, or maybe even 3 or 4 times. But then there were some times where it's like I wasn't necessarily out of body. Maybe by locating, maybe, I don't know the term, but something was happening, you know? And something that I experienced was, because I was already at such a hard place in life, I had this very strange journey that I went on where it was like I was floating down a river, but that river was time. And I understood it as across all lifetimes. Okay. Right? So it was like I was just kind of maybe on a raft, whatever, but I'm just like floating down this river. It's winding, it's going down. Sometimes it's like rapids and it's really rough. And it came through to me like the only thing that you have control over throughout the entire existence of all of it is your own inner light, is your own inner, you know, being. And it came through very clearly to me, like, you know, practice the reball, practice being happy, being as positive as you can, because every now and then life is like, you know, if it's the metaphor of the river, you're going down the rapids and it's turbulent and you can't control that. But what you can control is how brightly how you respond, how brightly you shine. And it just kind of came through to me like sometimes it's tough. It's all right. It's a season like we were talking about. But with these tools, you can navigate these storms or these, you know, rocky roads or whatever. And that was really profound. And then there was a couple other things I experienced there that were very perspective altering. And I came home and I was just like, I mean, Alex would tell you, like I went very stressed, and then I got home and the first thing you said was, you were like, wow, you look different. Remember?
You know what,
I was all smiles.
That's common. Yeah.
It was life-changing for me. And I say it saved me. That's a little dramatic, but like I went to Gateway not having the tools to manage being, I guess you could say, like a person having psychic or supernatural experiences, living in a world that is very mundane. And the majority of people that you encounter, I'm sure you've experienced this, you know, being in your position, the majority of people you encounter, they want to suppress it. It scares them.
Well, no, not the majority I meet anymore.
Well, good. Yeah. But there was a time in my life
by the Institute.
That's true. Yeah, you are meeting like-minded people, and I wasn't.
Right. You know, no, I've lived there too.
Yeah. And then when I went to Monroe, I was normal. I was totally normal.
Right.
Nobody was fazed by any of it, and it was amazing. And I was like, there are other people in the world like me, you know? And not only that, but like there's an actual school that is real, genuine, where you come to develop these things, you know? So and
there's no dogma, you know, attached to it. So that's nice too. It's like we're not trying to change any beliefs at all.
Oh yeah. I think that's one of the best things about it. It's like you don't there's nothing required. It's all about you having a personal experience and extrapolating the things
and interpreting.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. And then leaving with those tools that will help you spiritually, but also help you, like you're saying, like navigate just kind of the everyday mundane life things that just like meditation, like you know, you can it can both help you in a spiritual way, or if you're just having a bad day, you know, it can help you in that way as well.
Practical applications too.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So what would be an example of practical application?
Concentration, which you said you use it.
Guilty.
When he's been preparing for our trainer program, you've been listening to it, you said.
Oh, so we're going to put the cat out of the bag right now then.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was kind of hoping this would happen. I honestly was planning this.
Okay.
So Yep, you heard it from Allyn.
And we accepted you.
Yeah. You're hard to get.
Yes.
I'm getting a theme here.
Well, I still have, I haven't signed off yet.
Oh, hey.
You got to really mind your P's and Q's.
That's true. I'm on thin ice.
Gonna have to buy a couple more dinners.
Right.
Let's keep that coming.
Right.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, yes, you have heard it firsthand from Allyn that I am going through a training program.
Yep.
And
you'll be training some like Focus 10 and Focus 12, which are basic foundation and other things too. But
yeah.
That's how it started.
Yeah, this has been in the works secretly since last June.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time ever
okay.
talking about
I
it.
outed you.
Yeah, it's all right.
He's been dropping hints.
Oh, okay.
He's been dropping breadcrumbs.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the first time it's completely out there.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you'll be finished when?
I don't know because I have to do the phase 3, which is
right. The
the
mentor thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have initiated contact there, and I've been busy this week because you came, but I'm very excited. It'll be this year for sure.
Okay.
Probably
good.
summer.
Yeah. Don't wait.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. Phase 2 is April. Phase 3, get that out of the way, which I have to talk to you guys about that.
Okay.
You guys will be my guinea pigs.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. So anyway, moving on. Yeah. So now I can speak a little more clearly. When I was there in June, that kind of unfolded, and meeting you too was very impactful. And you might remember this, but I had done an interview with you. Do you remember?
Yes.
Which is going to come out soon.
Okay.
I was kind of timing it, which, I mean, that's like 3 or 4 minutes. It's a really cool interview, but this is, this takes the cake, and this is amazing that you came here to do this with us. But when we were doing that, I had just come out of Focus 21. As you know, throughout the week, you start to shift, you know what I mean? Because you're having these profound experiences. Yeah. And there was a moment when I was trying to work the camera, and I looked at you, and I don't know what possessed me to say this. I just looked into your eyes, and I could just feel this powerful energy with you. Like you're just an amazing person. You radiate
thank you.
an energy. And I looked at you in the eyes and I said, Allyn, you have a presence about you. I just want you to know that. Do you remember that?
I don't.
And you were just like, thank you. And that was it. But I swear to God, I was just like, let me tell you, I said, Allyn, you do have a presence about you. You're a very powerful person. Anyway, she talked to me about the Institute, and I'm like recording her. But it was a fun week. And, that just kind of unfolded, and we've kind of been working this out in secret, and I've not been looking back. I've just been wanting to completely dedicate myself to helping the Institute. Do
you mind adding the part about the Institute to the story you just told us about the river?
Which part? You
said as you were going down.
Yeah. That's okay. I'm glad you said that. That was actually 2 different experiences. Okay. So I'll talk about the other one. Okay. Yeah, I would love to. I paraphrased it at lunch, but
okay.
Sure. Yeah. So when I was there, it was after Archie came to me in private, and it just happened that way. We were having lunch one day. Yeah. It wasn't like he was like coming to me and whispering me on the side. We were just talking, and we were at lunch, and we were really having a great conversation. And he just casually was like, you really should consider looking into outreach. It starts next month. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what's outreach? Right. Which is how Allyn started.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah,
I was going to ask.
That's why in the beginning of the episode, I was like, we really have a similar path.
I was going to ask. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
we had the same. I promise I'm happy with the outreach thing, and you kind of the synergy of the platform here. And, I'm not like, I don't know. I'm just taking it one day at a time. I don't know what this path unfolds, but anyway.
It'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy. I'm happy with how it's unfolding. So anyway, I'm talking with Archie, and he's just like, you should look into this outreach thing. And I'm like, tell me about it. And we had this whole conversation about it. And he basically told me, he was like, look, normally you have to have X number of programs. Yeah. And that's why I'm doing the guidelines. Mm-hmm. It's like kind of rushing. Right, that's why I have to wait for phase 3, because I want to do that first.
Okay.
I think I had worked it out to where I had to do that, and then I'll do the phase 3, right?
Okay, yeah.
So anyway, Archie's explaining it to me. He's like, normally you got to have a program beyond Gateway, and then you go through, it's like school.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a year of school. I was like, Monroe University. That sounds enticing. You know, just like, that's cool.
Or perhaps Monroe Institute.
Of course. Yeah. You know, I my school was MU, and then for whatever reason I thought about Monsters University, and I was just like, Monroe University in my head. You know? In my head, I was like, you know, it's like people get PhDs. I'm going to the premier psychic institute of the world and getting certified to be a trainer. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. This is my real thoughts. You know, I'm like, this is actually amazing to think about. I'm like, wow, I actually am really interested in that, but I'm scared because I have such a busy life, and we have this thing going on, and I was like, would I really be cut out for this?
I had that same question. Yeah.
Right. A lot of those fears you're describing, I had too.
Yeah.
You know, and I went and I did a meditation after we had that conversation, and I saw again kind of how I saw the river of my life. This time it wasn't like time, but it was like my journey, and it was a road. It was like a dirt road, and it was just like infinitely unwinding, and it was like, this is your path. You know, you are walking this path. This is your destiny, basically, like where you're going to go next. And I saw Monroe just kind of appeared on the path. And it wasn't like blocking the road. It was beside the road. It was going with the road. And it just kind of, you know how it goes. Like sometimes understandings flash in your mind, right? And it just kind of flashed. It was like, just follow Monroe.
Yeah. And
I went up to Archie after that session, and I was like, I'll do it. You know? So we worked it out to where I could get that second program, you know, before the graduation.
Great.
So, and there's a few other things about Monroe, and the ones I haven't even told you yet. Yeah. You know, if you want me to go into that. But
sure.
Yeah, well, since I left Gateway last year, I've gone out of body spontaneously like 5 or 6 times.
Very nice.
It definitely opened a gateway.
Yeah.
You know, and
a lot of times it happens after you get home.
Right.
Yeah.
And that has been happening for me. Even like, not even just going out of body, but I will tell you, like, a lot of pressure in the third eye area. Is that common?
Really?
Yes. All the time.
Fascinating.
All the time. Not all the time, but
sure,
like all the time.
I know.
It can depend on how you perceive. And so some of us can do so through physical senses.
Okay.
And so you're feeling that energetic expansion in a physical way.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah. So not everybody might experience that. Just like not everyone will be clairaudient, which means hearing, or clairvoyant.
Right. Yeah, right.
So it just depends on how you tap in.
So for some people, it's more in the mind.
Right. It can just be you just know. And that's psychic. You know, that is being intuitive, but a lot of people will dismiss that because it's not how they want it to be.
That's been me.
Yeah.
Like I've always kind of felt like, I guess the term is clairsentient. Like sometimes these knowings just come to me.
Yep.
But I have always actively suppressed that.
Right.
And then I went to Monroe, and it was like that gateway was open where I came home, and it was like, okay, I can't suppress this anymore.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And anyway, so there's been 5 or 6 different occasions over the last just under a year now that I'm laying there. I'm like kind of trying to go to sleep, but like I explained to you, I'm hyperactive. So a lot of times I'm just laying in bed for an hour, you know, so I'm not asleep.
Right.
I know what it's like to fall asleep. Right. I don't just fall asleep.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm always the last one up.
Yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. We'd have a bunch of people over staying the night. He'd be up till like 6 a.m.
Oh.
As a kid, you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
like even as a toddler, I would resist going to sleep.
Even just like a year ago when we were recording in the other apartment, if we'd have guests come or if like his siblings would be there staying, he's up until the last person drops.
Always.
I'd throw in the towel hours before then. I'm going to bed.
So I say all that to say that I confidently know that I am not asleep when this is happening to me. You know what I mean? It's a real theme in my life. And there have been multiple occasions where I'm laying there and all of a sudden I'll feel this pressure in my like pineal gland. It's not painful, but it's like kind of like not a pulsing, but it's like just like a energy movement thing, you know? And sometimes it's like the first time it happened, it was like my mind, like if you close your eyes, you can still kind of see. You're not seeing with your eyes, but you can maybe see images in your head or whatever. I was closing my eyes, I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, it's like I was away from my body, and my vision in my mind kind of did this wiggle like a serpent and went through this almost like a portal. And it's like, next thing I knew, I was downstairs and I was looking at myself. But it's going to be a little weird, but it'll circle back.
I'm sure she's used to.
Yeah.
So I'm looking
at a lot of weird.
Right.
Yeah, you're the CEO of weird.
There you go. Exactly.
So I'm looking at myself, and as weird as this sounds, I look like what I thought at the time. I looked like kind of like the Joker.
Okay.
Like I had white face paint, these black marks on my face, and black long hair. And my first thought was, oh, it's a clown, kind of like the Joker.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in, I want to say probably like June.
Okay.
Or no, September. Because June I was at Gateway.
Right.
Then I went to Europe for a month, and then I got home. So it was probably more like August or September that happened to me. And I was like, whoa. And I saw a couple other things. Like I saw this stone statue that looked like some Hindu deity.
Mm-hmm.
And it had its tongue out, like making a really like a shocking face.
Yeah.
And I looked it up later, and it was something like Kali. Like, the Hindus believe that sometimes when you're going through like an ego death, or you're going through some sort of transformative experience, that sometimes the more shocking the image that you see, the more it serves to like reduce your ego. That's what I read.
Okay.
I don't have a particular thing with that image I saw, but it was a stone Hindu statue, and it was like shocking, and I was like, whoa. And then it changed, and it was like this weird machine, like just all these levers and knobs and like pistons, and they're just like moving, and all this steam coming out of it. And this information came to me that it was like, you are evolving. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This machine looked like nonsense.
Right.
It looked like some weird alien technology. Like,
but you had the feeling.
But I had the feeling that I was the machine, like evolving.
So that's that clairsentience word that you guys are talking. It's like a knowing.
I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I just have these like, it's like
I got you.
Information comes through.
And you just have
it's not a voice. It's just like a feeling.
And then it resonates.
Yeah.
Wow.
To wrap that story up, Alex, Nick, and I go to a Halloween party in October at our mutual friend's house. Mm-hmm. There's a guy there dressed like the Crow. Do you know the Crow?
No.
It's Bruce Lee has a son.
Oh, yes.
He's now passed. His name was Brandon Lee. He played in a movie called The Crow.
Okay.
White face paint.
With the black
marks.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Yep. And I end up having like a 30-minute to an hour-long conversation with this guy, and he had this very traumatic spiritual psychosis event in his life where he was hospitalized, and I found myself in an opportunity to be able to give him words of like affirmation. And he kept saying things to me like, yeah, I went crazy, this, that, and the other. And I was in an opportunity to like, no, man, you're not crazy. You just, and like encourage him and lift him up.
Right.
And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't see myself as the Joker. It was that guy.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's what I saw.
Whoa.
So anyway, back to the one about Monroe. That started happening pretty regularly, where I'm like just spontaneously going out of body. And one that I had was I saw Monroe. And I saw myself. And I saw myself portrayed as having this kind of like energy field around me. And all of these experiences throughout my life, the orbs or maybe weird dreams or any sort of kind of phenomenon that can't really be explained. It was like there's this field around me that it was just like a wild field of unfocused, like psychic energy. Mm-hmm. And things were happening around me subtly that I wasn't even aware of. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then I saw the Institute, and it looked like a castle, like with turrets and all these walls, and people are walking up and down the walls. It just looked like a medieval castle for some reason. Maybe it's symbolic. The information came through to me that like the Monroe Institute is a place where people go to make those unconscious abilities conscious. That there are many gifted potentials in the world, and really everybody is gifted.
Right.
I just think some people are in desperate need to understand it, and it just came through to me very clearly. Like Monroe is the place where you go to develop this, make it conscious, learn. Like it was explained to me like, like a student and a master. Like sometimes you may be born, you see 3-year-olds play the piano. And some people are just born with abilities that need to be refined by a master. You know what I mean? So.
Very nice.
Yeah. It goes on and on. More of them.
And do you journal?
No.
Oh, man.
Should I?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason you want to journal is because you can go back, and a lot of times it's like you're getting little breadcrumbs, which you've described several, and then you can look back at it and see for validation, to remind yourself of,
Yeah.
Like kind of your progress.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been reading my journals again because I'm writing a book.
Really?
Yes.
I knew that.
You don't say.
You don't say. And it's been very interesting, what I wrote about, and I didn't remember,
Yeah.
One of them was something you said earlier about there were people like me. So I kept hearing this message over and over. There are more people like you. There are more people like you. And I think it resonates with what you were saying. We're out here. We just need to figure out how to get together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So were you going to say something?
No.
Oh, sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. But what's the overall premise of the book?
It's more about the journey of moving from being what I would consider not psychic to psychic, and just talking about the tools, and then bringing in Bob's work with it as well, and Bob's message.
So is it a sort of autobiography?
I mean, it is. I do use my life experiences to make points, so there is some personal telling. Sure,
yeah, naturally
of the story.
Yeah,
but the focus, I believe, is more on the tools.
Yeah, okay.
And how to self-evolve. How to continue that process, and then sort of on the lines we were already talking about. Just ways to think about things that shift your perspective, like gratitude. One of my favorite mantras that I've been using, and I didn't know this until I read my diary, but I've been using it for about 10 years, and that is to say, what's mine is mine, what's not is not. So when I don't get something that I really want, or it's a direction I'm going and I just know that's the right direction, and it falls apart, I can be sad about it, but I can pull myself really quickly out of sadness, because I just remind myself what's mine is mine, what's not is not. So mine's coming. I thought it was that. It wasn't.
Yeah.
So that kind of information.
That's something I struggle with really bad, and that's been a theme this week that I've had the opportunity to talk about with Alex after you left the other night. We just had sometimes we'll record and then you'll leave and then we'll do another show, but we'll kind of talk a little bit before we start. And with my wife this week, something that has been a recurring theme in my life lately is like trying to let go of results. Because I am.
So you got a new affirmation.
Which is?
What's mine is mine.
What's mine is mine. Okay. And what's not is not.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
So make the intention. We need a path. We need something to intend for, and then take the steps, and it'll come in whatever way it's supposed to. It might not be the way you think it's supposed to come. Doesn't mean it's not coming. Just it'll look different.
Yeah.
It's divine.
You're right. There you go.
Right. It's divine.
It's caused me a lot of grief in my life being so obsessed with results. So like that's something that has just been a recent theme in my life that I have. Coincidentally, you're bringing this up is like perfect timing for me.
Oh, good.
Because it's like something that I really am like, okay, I need to work on this. Detachment or whatever.
And that is a hard one. And that's part of the manifesting idea, is that you're supposed to release. Like once you put it out there, you're supposed to surrender, and that's easier said than done. Yeah. To surrender to
the
that.
Attachment, the attachment thing. We are like so naturally, we cling to things because we want to feel like we own them. We want to feel like we own our destinies and our lives.
Oh, we are in control.
We're in full control, and and then the second, right. The second that we realize like maybe we're not, it can crumble.
Yeah.
And it can feel devastating.
Yeah.
But it's good. I really like your mantra. I really like that. What's mine is mine. What's not is not.
Yeah.
It's similar to my favorite, which is "It is what it is."
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's my favorite.
I love that.
That's my favorite mantra in the world.
Yeah,
I love that.
If things are just abysmal,
it is
what it is.
That's
It
powerful.
It is what it is.
That's kind of like some street wisdom.
I get it from my daddy.
It is what it is. I like that.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some pretty out there questions,
Okay.
but from a very genuine place of learning, because I think everybody's individual experience with reality is just going to be slightly different, you know? So I'm curious, like in all of your time being involved, even before Monroe, with you being interested in this kind of psychic body of knowledge. And, you know, we talked about this a little bit at lunch. I did have another out-of-body experience at Gateway where I know that Monroe is a place of non-dogma, and that's one of the best things about it. But I also understand that throughout time there have been other things maybe that have a dogma but still have, you know, maybe they have things that are true and things that are not true. Or they have a dogma because maybe it's some centuries old tradition. But anyway, my point is, it occurred to me in the out-of-body state, I found myself in like ancient Egypt. It's very, I talked about it on the 3-part Monroe series. And it very clearly came through to me that Monroe, the Institute as it is today, is a genuine emergence of a tradition that has been happening for thousands of years, which is, you know, you have things like the Templar Knights, you have things like all these other traditions, the Rosicrucians, the XYZ, all of these different mystery traditions have been secretly holding the knowledge that we can go out of body. You know, you see it in movies, you see it in all kinds of popular representations of this stuff. And it's like this secret, I feel like, that's been around for so long. And it just kind of came through to me very clearly that like the Monroe Institute is like I don't say this lightly, but like a new age offshoot of that in a very real and genuine scientific way, without the dogma, shedding the things we don't need, you know, all of the ritual and the religious observation, and it's just taking the truth of what we are. You know, you're more than a physical body. You can explore this. You can go out of your body. You can find out for yourself. You know, they've been doing it for thousands of years, but they have a lot of, you know, little things that maybe I don't need that. Maybe I don't need to fast for 40 days under a tree, or maybe I don't need to give up all my possessions, you know? So it came through to me that like Monroe is a very, very special place, and that there were like just so many amazing forces at play to bring it into the world. And throughout the week, I'm having all these things come to me, and I'm like, man, this really is a good opportunity to like commit myself to this institute in a very serious way. But anyway, so that was a long-winded setup for the question, but I wanted to know, like, in your time walking this path, like, what have you explored? What have you determined your understanding of things are? Why can we manifest things? Why can we go out of body? Why? How is it possible? From Allyn's perspective.
No pressure.
That's a big question.
That's a big question.
No pressure.
Well, like I would tell you, you know, I'm a spiritual being. There's some sort of higher. I'm not. It's not a trick question. Like I just, you know, how did you come to know this? Why did you come to know this? Like,
well, I would say through experience.
Boom.
Yeah, and that's what Monroe offers. You know, a pathway to do that. Yeah, and I mean, just having the experience of connecting with what I call total self, or Bob called total self. I'll a lot of times say higher self.
Yeah.
And then connecting with guides and guidance. That's when I, you know, just knew something was happening here.
Yeah.
And now I can even have a conversation with my body.
Really? What do you mean?
So let me start at the beginning. So about 15 years ago, I'm listening to Hay House Radio, and that was how it first came out. Wasn't
Like
a
Louise
podcast.
Oh, cool.
It was a radio show.
Wow.
That was because that was before podcast.
Sure, yeah.
And there was a host named Venus Andrak. And she was a psychic, and so I just listened to her show while I'd be working on my computer. And so one day she goes, "Now, the next time you go meditate, ask your body what it needs from you." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
Ask my body.
Yeah. So I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." So the next time I meditated, I got to the point where I felt like I was deep enough, and so I in my head, in my mind, I don't ask out loud. I say, "Body, what do you need today?" And I'm expecting lettuce, fruit. I was always on a diet. And my body says Butterfinger.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And I was like, what? And then I was like, I prefer Snickers. I don't even, it's like my body's not matching my personal taste. But then I decided, and I had talked myself into it. I did go get a Butterfinger.
You did.
Oh, wow.
I did, because if the body, like I asked,
Yeah.
and if
Who are
you
you to
tell
disagree?
me, and then I'm not going to help you, get what you want. But interestingly enough, I haven't been asked to supply something like that. Again, it's been orange juice, turmeric, things like that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So it was just that one time.
And the turmeric, it was an interesting one because I didn't know the word. Now it's talked about more.
Sure,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I had inflammation.
And that's the best for that.
And so I was asking what I
Wow.
needed. And I heard turmeric. I'm like, turmeric. And I'm trying to sound it out and so I can bring it back, with me. And the minute I get out of the meditation, I'm trying to, write it down. And I look it up. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's a powerful
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So you didn't even know.
No.
You're like, what is that,
No.
body?
That's
No.
amazing.
Yep.
Wow.
So you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
That
if you're
never
gonna
even
if you're
occurred
gonna
to
be
me.
serious about it, I would try to honor what you're asked. Sometimes when I'm asked, and orange juice seems to be the most common, I'm like, oh man, I don't have any orange juice,
You gotta
and
go
I
to
don't
the
have
store.
time to go to
Yeah.
Food Lion.
Yeah, there we go. Shout out Food Lion. We love a Food Lion.
I don't.
Well, you worked there.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
I was,
Anyway,
yeah.
so just do what you can to honor honor the request that you hear. But yeah.
That's amazing.
So it sounds like then you are. So Ryan is much more of a like why. I need the information. I need the why. Why is it happening?
I need the results.
I need yes. I need the results. I need the data. I need an explanation.
Yeah.
Why? Whereas you are more like, I have the experience.
I have what I have.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I have what
See,
I
I have
have.
a lot to learn here.
Well, it's just different. I think.
Yeah,
Different
it's
strokes
different for everyone's. So
Every
different.
mind is different.
Yeah,
Like
that's
just
true.
to elaborate on that, when my dad, my grandparents have told me this my whole life growing up, and my dad's told me this, like it's everybody knows this about him, that he wanted me to tell you hello, by the way.
Oh,
and Emily.
Tell your dad and Emily hello too.
I will. But I've always just known this about my dad, that when he was in diapers, my grandma would come in the room and the washing machine has been taken apart.
Yeah.
When he was 3, he would get his hands on a screwdriver.
Right.
He has this mechanical mind.
Yeah.
He would just take everything. When he was so young, he didn't know how to put it back together.
Okay.
He would take his bicycle apart. He would take the washing machine apart or the radio. And it was a problem. They had to
Right.
hide things from him.
Yeah.
By the time he was like 9 or 10, everybody on the street would come pay him cash, and he would put the radio in their car.
Right.
By the time he was 13, he built his first house. By the time he was my age, he's building airplanes and motorcycles. He has this
Wow.
mechanical mind. I feel the same way, but only about spiritual things.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I have to learn everything I can learn. There's no way you can possibly understand it all. That's the curse of studying these things.
Right.
It's so abstract and
Right.
ineffable, but I feel like
Bottomless.
it is. It's almost bottomless or infinite, really.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how my mind works. Is I feel like, and that's why Monroe is so good for me,
Mm-hmm.
because it gives me tools that I wasn't finding in other places.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That work.
Mm-hmm.
They actually work.
Yep.
And they're based in ancient practices, but you don't need all the fluff. Just look, this actually works
Right.
because you're more than your physical body.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I have a lot to learn, and I'm loving every bit of it.
Yeah.
Really.
We all have a lot to learn.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's part of the fun of life.
Yeah.
If we run out of things to learn, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's true. And I love that there's a little something for everybody in Monroe.
Yeah.
Everybody works a little bit differently. Like
Right.
that, I'm much more of the it is what it is kind of person too. Like, but I mean, I think just as many people are more like, why is this happening? I need to know the specifics and the data and the, you know, and it's not that it's like that is one is correct and the other is incorrect.
Right.
It's just two different paths to the same result.
Right. It's style. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's a little something for everybody.
You know, another thing, so many people have the idea that it's about being visual. So like when you're in your meditation experience, I'm not seeing anything. And guess what? You might not. You know, you might not be one of those people. And I'm not really one of those people. I mean, I have had a little bit of that in out-of-body experiences, but in meditations, it's like completely black.
Same. I don't see
and I'll just
anything.
I'll go, okay, where are we? You know, because I can't see anything,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So everyone's so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very rare that I see things in my mind. Very, very
So
rare.
you have to use your imagination. And that's the other thing. People think if I use my imagination, I'm making it up.
Yeah, I'm guilty of I used to think that.
Okay. And so if you use your imagination, it's really a good way to start the process. It's an initiation. And a lot of times you'll find it takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
You're no longer
in control
of it.
It's like a jump start.
I used to do this thing where I would go to this space, and I had a healing center. I still do the healing center, but this was I was reading this in my journals recently. And I had a healer named Rob.
Oh.
I don't know why his name was Rob.
Shout out Rob.
And then I had a career closet, I called it, because I was always trying to figure out what I was supposed to do with my life. And I had a book, like a library, that I could just go pick a book to get answers. And
Like the Akashic Records.
yeah. And then I had a room that had a beanbag and a TV screen. So I would just start it the way it started. I would go, "Hey, Rob," you know, and go in and have a healing session that I kind of directed.
Yeah.
And then it would just start doing its own thing. And one time, and I wrote this in the book, I was going in to say Rob, and I said, "Hi, Mike."
Oh.
Who's Mike? You know. And so that it immediately started taking on a life of its own.
Whoa.
So,
Was that a while into you had
No,
been
it was just like right when I had started in, and it was like instead of saying Rob, I said Mike. And so I had a conversation with this guy named Mike. You know?
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I get where you're coming from too, because you're like, wait, why would that just like automatically come out of me when I've been, you know, thinking of this Rob figure? It's almost like it just kind of took a life of its own and it just happened.
And you know, priming the pump. You know.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Priming the pump.
But like Focus 15 is one of the levels we talk about, and that's there is no time.
Yeah.
And that is a space of initiation. So if there's going to be an experience, there needs to be an initiation, which would be started by imagination. Or you can have the opposite, which is the void in that same space, which is very still. And you experienced 15. Very still, very quiet.
They did too in Creation Station.
Oh, y'all
one
did-
time.
y'all
Yeah, there
did
was
one.
one
Okay,
exercise.
okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that was one of the only times I actually really did see something very vivid was when we did that. I don't remember if it was that practice or if it was. Did we do that on our last day?
I think so.
More than
Then
likely, because you would have done 10 and 12 first.
Then I'm pretty sure that was the one. I'll need to look at my journal again, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that was the one.
I think it was Focus 15.
See, I rarely
We
ever
can ask Ignacio.
like I wonder if I have this thing called aphantasia where you don't see anything when you close your eyes or when you imagine stuff. You just it's just nothing. But every now and then I can.
So then you do. You don't have a condition.
Right. Exactly. It's like every now and then something will peek through and I see something. Same with my dreams.
Yeah.
Usually don't dream. Every now and then I'll
You
have.
do dream, you just don't remember it.
Yeah.
It's probably something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. But every now and then I will. And then most of our things in Creation Station, it was like I'd have more feelings and thoughts than anything.
Ideas. Yeah.
Ideas.
You know, it's interesting. I forgot where I was going with that because you said something that I was going to latch on to.
It's my not seeing things in my mind and then not seeing things when I dream.
Right. So, okay, I got it. So one of the things about using your other senses besides being visual.
Yeah.
And I was really frustrated. I wanted to be visual because that's where people are seeing the movies, and they can explain it all to you. And then it dawned on me one time that the way I was perceiving or receiving information, I didn't have to interpret as much. Because if it's just a visual movie in front of you or like a symbol coming at you, you have to interpret it.
Yeah.
If you're hearing a sentence,
You got it.
yeah. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I have learned that for me, it's better not to be visual.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like straight to the core of the message.
Yep.
It's different for everybody.
Yep.
It's different for everybody. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. That's a positive outlook. Because sometimes it's frustrating.
Oh, I know.
You know.
Hey, I've been there.
They
I
warn
called
us.
it. Well, we call it focus envy. You know.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're learning all the insider
Right.
lingo.
But I mean, my gateway was not exceptional. I mean, I knew something good was going on. I knew I needed to come back. You know, I had that very deep knowing. But there wasn't a whole bunch of, you know, there was nothing spectacular that happened.
Yeah.
And this was your very first experience going there. Yeah. You just
And
knew
so it's,
though.
you know, like people think, okay, if I go there, I'm going to go out of body. Maybe, maybe not.
Yeah.
But that's not really what's happening there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just that's an experience you can have or possibly have. But even in Gateway, there's only one meditation or exercise that's focused on the out-of-body experience. That's not the purpose of that program.
Yeah, and it's just like an intro. It's just like teaching you the tools and then I mean that's a great way to. So then what about like OBE? Would that be
that is the intention.
Okay.
But what happens to people, they come to the program, and almost everyone you interview, because I was a trainer for OBE Spectrum, they would say, I want to have the classic experience. And the classic experience is vibrating, then knowing that you're coming out of your body, then going to the ceiling, looking down, seeing yourself. Maybe there's a silver cord. Most people don't do that.
Yeah.
So it becomes more about what I call projected consciousness.
Okay.
So you know you're in your check unit, but you also know, and some people might call that bilocation. But by the end of the week, people don't care if they've had a classical experience because it's about the outcome. How you got there, you learn is just not that important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
And that's true in my experience. Like I mean, I'm like positive I went out of body, but it was nothing like, you know, oh my gosh, look, there I am. It wasn't like that. It was just like 1 minute I'm there and then 1 minute I'm in ancient Egypt. So yeah, it's like one minute I'm you know in my body and 1 minute I'm not. And it's like maybe I'm in ancient Egypt or maybe I'm downstairs in my living room. Actually, you might find this interesting. At Gateway last year, I swear it was like the second to last night, I think. And I was laying in my bed in the check unit and I was at such an elevated state, which I'm sure you know what that means. Maybe them listening at home, they're like, what do you mean by that? But you know what I mean. They know what I mean. You know, doing the program is just over time after you're having experience after experience after experience, you get to the state where you're just sort of like expanded. I don't really know how to explain it more. But I was there and I was laying in bed and I'm like, close my eyes, you know, and it's like next thing I know, it's like if you imagine an old radio when you like turn the knob and there's static, you know, it was kind of like that a little bit. Like the transmission of this where I am right now got a little fuzzy for a moment. And then I swear to you, it was like I was standing in line in the cafeteria in the morning getting a cup of coffee with the, you know how the cafeteria is where you have the trays and you go and you get, you know, this, you know, maybe get the eggs, maybe get the sausage, whatever. And I'm like standing there trying to get coffee. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm laying in bed.
Oh, right.
And then it was like, I'm back in bed.
Right.
You know, it was so weird.
Yeah.
The next morning, I got up early and I don't remember why I did. I think I was just in so much of a peaceful state from the week that I was like, I want to go sit and drink a cup of coffee by the crystal, you know? And I grabbed one of those blue lawn chairs that's, you know, kind of near the crystal. And I actually dragged it over to the crystal and I sat there in silence and I was drinking my cup of coffee and I put my hand on the crystal and same thing. It was like the knob, the static. And it was like, I started to get really fuzzy, like, oh my God, it's like I was going somewhere else, and I was like, I got to get up, I got to walk around, I can't do that, like I have programs to do,
right.
You know? And it was just so weird, and I don't know if you've heard stories of that or if that's common, but it was weird.
Yeah. No, I've heard lots of stories.
I'm sure you've heard
I
it
haven't
all.
experienced that, where I was awake, and
I'm sure there's a million things that people experience that are different from everyone, that are really kind of hard to pinpoint.
Yeah.
But interesting. So what's like your most profound Monroe experience?
I would say it happened at Heartline,
Okay.
which is a program working on the heart, but that's not what happened. That wasn't what I'm going to talk about. I was in my check unit and drop in just almost immediately to knowing I'm in that place, and I hear Led Zeppelin, and I'm like, and then Bob's talking, and I'm like, oh man, Bob used Led Zeppelin as the background music, and so I like crank it up, and then all of a sudden the bottom of the check unit falls out, and before that I get it the two like sides come up and create a box, and I'm lying in the box, and then the bottom of the check unit drops out, and I go onto this like roller coaster thing that's like a coal mine.
Oh, wow.
And I'm having this experience, and I'm thinking there was a guy named Dirk there who had taken this particular program 8 times.
Wow.
And he kept telling me, just wait. The next exercise is like, so I'm thinking, Dirk. I'm having fun. Dirk didn't tell me about this, and I'm thinking, oh no, what about the people that are claustrophobic? Because it puts you in a box, and then I'm going wee, and then I'm going, Dirk, why didn't Dirk tell me? What about the people that are claustrophobic? This is going on as I'm riding on this thing, and I'm like, I didn't know they had all these tunnels under here. Like, wow, no one told me. And then the exercise ended. I opened my eyes, and I had been in my check unit all along.
Right.
But it was like real. It was so real.
Wow.
I really thought it had happened.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was fun too.
Like
for Heartline, usually you're working on your heart. So a lot of times there's a lot of healing that takes place. And for me, it was a joyride. I was on magic carpets. I was jamming to Led Zeppelin.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's different for everybody. It just depends on where you are in your own journey. And each program has an agenda. But we individuals come in with our own agenda.
Yeah.
And that can take, over.
Like a conscious agenda, or like maybe a subconscious?
Oh, it could be subconscious, conscious.
You might not even know.
It could be an agenda that your guides have to try to get you back on track,
Let's talk about guides.
Okay.
And that's something that it's very fascinating to me, and I have no experience with that.
Okay.
That's
why you're going to guidelines.
Yeah, actually, that is, because I had to choose a program, and it was like, I think it was between that and MC Squared. And I was like, MC Squared is really cool, and I do want to do it someday. And I was like, that's really cool, but I really feel like I could use more direction, So I ultimately chose that one, and I think the timing of it worked out. But let's explore like guides. Why? We don't have to say why, but like, what is a guide? Just keep it simple.
So it is hard to define because we don't really know the answer, right? But for me, it's just something that it's either a wiser part of myself, or maybe it's deceased loved ones that are helping me. I've communicated with a mother from a German life that keeps checking in on me.
Checking
in.
Really?
She'll want to see me, and I'm like, I don't really know you. So I don't have the same emotional reaction that she has. Yeah. But wow. I don't know the source of it, but I know I've had I had a guide, and she identified herself as a group, but I identified her as a single thing.
Interesting.
And I would get information, and then one time she said, I have to leave. And I had become, she was my friend, so I was very upset that she was going to leave me, and she did leave. But she said, or the group that she said that they needed to leave because I was now at a different stage of development and I needed other guidance. And so I wrote this in my journal. I asked, so is it going to be the same? Will it be similar? Well, because I really had a friendship with this.
Oh, wow.
And she did tell me, yes, it would be, but it would be also different. Oh. And to me, it's very different because I don't have the same type bond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting.
So is it usually one guide at a time, or
say that I can't answer that, because I know I've talked to people who would say like it's a they and then individuals, sure. And maybe it's a deceased grandmother, but it's hard to answer. Just like I kept calling this person a name, but it was a group.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the total self communication, that can be interesting too.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's like a higher version of yourself.
Right. Higher self. Bob called it total self. That's why I tend to say that, but higher self. Yeah.
That's fascinating as well. You're essentially, is it like sort of like the idealized version of your spirit, or?
So one way to look at it would be you are, let's say your higher self is in the crow's nest. And you are the captain of your ship. So there's little self and big self. And so the higher self is seeing a much broader perspective. Oh. And the lower self is the one driving the boat that's getting information with our five senses, hopefully getting some sixth sense information because they're doing things like dream analysis and meditating, or just paying attention and being aware. And so that's how I would define it. So it is you, and I would say it's the self that's connected to your soul. Yeah.
Wow, I really like that analogy.
You find out by the end of Robert Monroe's third book. So, like in the second book, he went out of body thousands of times. Like, wow. And they studied his brain, and it's a whole amazing thing that the formation of the Institute and the early explorers and all this amazing stuff. And he would regularly communicate with these guys. They weren't humans. They were like energy beings called AA and BB, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. By the end of the third book, you find out that AA and BB were Robert Monroe, but it was like from his higher self. Oh, wow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like all along, he realized after 20 years of doing this, or 30. I mean, really, from the 50s to like the 90s. It was 40 years he had been doing this by the time the third book was published. Wow. And because I think it was published in the 90s, if I remember correctly.
I think you're right.
And he realized after 40 years that these entities that he had been communicating were him. Mm-hmm. Yes, aspects of him. Wow. From some greater level of understanding than he could perceive, and they didn't even reveal it was him until he was ready for it to be revealed that it was parts of him. Wow. So that's a head scratcher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, dang, that was kind of a mind-blowing reveal. It's very fascinating to me. So
big time. That's why you kind of have to, it's so abstract,
right?
At times, it's like you really, at least part of you just has to let go.
Right.
You just have to, and just like this material brain maybe can't fully wrap around what's happening, and that's okay.
Right.
As long as I'm having the experience and it's positive, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And it might not be positive because you're working through things. I mean, Bob in his first book was running around screaming all the time.
Pinching people.
Right.
Really?
He actually did pinch a girl, when he was out of body.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's shocking. It's got to be so shocking, especially because it just started happening to him, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't seeking it.
Right.
Well, and a lot of times, like I had written about a dream, OBE I had, and I realized after I was out of body, what I would call out of body, that there were these two men who I knew were up to no good in the room. Well, of course they weren't there. And I knew, I don't know why I've never been afraid of it, but I just knew that it was representing something for me that needed to be a shadow or something that I needed to personally pay attention to or work through. And so I just kicked them and left.
You kicked them?
That's how I feel about nightmares.
Yeah.
That it's some shadow part of me that's
Yes.
trying to tell me something. And it's not necessarily, a lot of people think of it, like you said earlier, like an omen or a superstition. And like, well, no, maybe it's more like a message.
It's you working things out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love it when I have a nightmare and I become aware and I can like just turn the whole situation upside down. Like that wolf that's coming after me and about to, attack me. I can, take charge and
turn it into a bunny.
Yeah, right. Or kick it or whatever.
You like to kick stuff, huh? I'm getting a theme here. You're kicking all sorts of entities out of your dreams and stuff.
Yeah, she's a powerful lady.
Right. Yeah.
But if you really can look at it like that, and Luigi Scamarella is one of our trainers from the UK. He's a lucid dreaming expert. And one of the things he looks at or talks about with dreams is, so like when you dream about people in your dreams, and let's say you know them or you don't know them, typically about 85%, that was a figure that was given from a researcher, about 85% of those characters are parts of yourself.
Interesting.
That you are needing to, work through, do something with, address. Maybe it was something that happened during the day. And you'll start, and I have a parade of people that are regular characters, and I've interpreted and identified what they mean. So then they pop up in my dream. I have an easier way to deal with that. Lucid dreaming is still dealing with aspects of yourself. The OBE is when you step out of that.
Yeah. So even when it's somebody in your dream that you know in real life, it's still an aspect of you. Interesting.
That's what Martin Kelsley is the person that I followed and read about, and that was his theory about it, and it made sense to me, and I used it, and so I believe it because I've had the experience of working with my dreams.
So the same, in my opinion, the same could be said about why we are psychic or why we are immortal beings of energy, you know, because it's almost like we're, if the character in your dream is an aspect of you, then certainly we must be an aspect of that source consciousness that's kind of like projecting us into existence. It's kind of the same thing in a sense.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. It's another head scratcher.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
We don't know. We just don't know all the answers.
Yeah, for sure. But that's something I like to think about. There has to be some reason, right?
Yeah, and like with the nightmare thing, your mind, not just your brain, but your mind wouldn't just like want to scare you for no reason. It wouldn't want to just, I'm going to scare you and freak you out. It's like, it knows what it's doing. There's a mind-body relationship. It doesn't want to just like sabotage. So everything means something. I don't know, in my opinion.
Well, and with dreams, lucid dreams, out-of-body experiences, you also you just need to remind yourself. Dreams are tricky though because you're not consciously aware typically when that nightmare is happening. But with the lucid dreaming and the OBE, you are. So you just remind yourself, hey, nothing can happen to me. They can't. That person that I'm seeing as scary can't do anything to me.
Yeah.
And then that's why it's nice if you can turn your dreams into, turn them around.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not really usually in that situation. One more thing that's sticking out to me that I think is kind of another important ask is like, since you've gone down your journey with Monroe, how has your daily life changed? Have you found that, the techniques that and I already kind of know the answer, but it's for them, right? Have you found that like the techniques that you've learned have helped you manage trivial things such as stress, anxiety, things like that? How has it changed your normal daily life?
First, I was going to say, because I took the question as, now that I'm in this job, it's like, it has changed my life a lot.
Yeah, that would be fun. That's not what I meant.
It's a big job. Yeah. But no, that's true. So I had two situations that happened after I'd been doing a meditation and dream practice for a while. And I wrote about them in the book that made me realize that a big shift had occurred for me.
Yeah.
And one of them was I was having surgery, and these happened within months of each other. And I was having surgery, and they brought me in to the room where the surgery was going to take place, set me down where I'm looking at the table. I'm looking at all of the, equipment that they're going to use on me. And the nurse starts taking my pulse, and she keeps hanging down there a little bit, and then she goes, "You are the calmest person that I have ever taken a pulse before surgery."
Wow.
And I used a sound technology support an operation thing, a surgery thing, to prepare for the surgery.
Interesting.
But I also know, because of what the next example I'm going to tell you, that it was just throughout me. Like it was a part of me now. And the other was I live in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma has a lot of tornadoes.
Right.
And this particular day, 30 tornadoes touched down in the state of Oklahoma.
Oh my gosh.
And I knew about it because it was on the news. And so I prepared the little interior room. You're supposed to go into a room that does not have an outside wall.
Uh-huh.
So we had one. It was a half bath. And I had 3 dogs and my daughter. And would grab supposed to always have pillows. And so I had the pillows and the radio, so I could, if the electricity went out. So we had a siren, and the person the voice would come over it. And the voice said, "Take cover immediately." I was like, okay. So I calmly get, everybody in the room, and we're sitting there listening. And all of a sudden, the broadcaster on the radio says, "The tornado is over Iba Drive and Loper Street." And I'm like, that's me. It's right above my head.
Oh my gosh.
And I was so calm. And I was just like, well, it's either going to touch down or it's going to keep going.
It is what it is.
Right. There you go. Hey, that's perfect for that. So, but again, it was just like, a totally different thing. Now, years later, I have now an Aura Ring, and it helps measure stress.
Oh,
there are a lot of smart devices.
Yeah, I have one a Whoop.
So it's interesting to me to look at my stress levels now, because I'll be like, things will be happening that are very stressful that I'm having to manage. And I'll look at the end of the day at my stress levels, and it's like 30 minutes maybe in the whole day,
Wow.
And And I joke about it. If I'd gotten this position 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would probably be in a fetal position.
Oh,
just because it's such a big job.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a lot to manage.
Yeah. Well, and you're managing a hotel.
Yeah.
And you're managing an international operation. It's a lot.
Yeah, millions
Research,
of people come through your doors.
Yeah, technology.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's impressive. You are impressive. You are amazing.
Well, thank you.
Just what an honor that you're here with us doing this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
I'm glad.
I got to touch sand today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
I regretted not taking a selfie by the water.
Oh.
We'll have to get one in here for sure.
Okay.
But I really do regret that. There was a service truck in front of us, and she didn't have the proper shoes to step down in the sand, and we're walking away, and I was like, I should have got a selfie. It would have been nice, right?
But the weather was nice today, too.
Yeah, it was.
I'm a beach girl.
Yeah?
Yeah. It was calling my name.
Well, you got a free place to stay anytime.
I will take you up on that.
Yes. And I will be your way in Faber, Virginia soon.
Good.
And just thank you for coming and doing this. This is amazing. The Monroe Institute has changed my life.
Mine too.
For sure. I think a lot of people can say the same thing. Millions of people.
For sure.
And after going there myself and experiencing it for myself, at least as far as I'm concerned, I have dedicated my path going forward to make sure that one way or another I'm somehow doing something with Monroe, whether it's programs, whether it's becoming a trainer. I don't know. I just know that it's a good thing for me, and therefore it has to be a good thing for others too. So talk about it to as many people as I can, and very cool that you could have this conversation with us, and hopefully it impacts people out there.
Yes, I hope so.
So
I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
I'm certain.
Also, I have to say that I thought it would be really cool for the people out there in the world to see what an amazing person the CEO of the Monroe Institute is.
Oh,
so
thank you.
Thank you. And if there's any one more thing that you could, I like to ask the question, like, if there was something you wanted to get off your chest, if you're like imagining there's actually, a large number of people that you feel like you can make an impact on them with a message? What's that thing that you feel? It could be about Monroe. It could be about anything. Just what's something that you feel like, man, I wish people would take me seriously about this. You know what I mean?
I said this to you earlier today. Start saying yes.
You did say that. And,
yeah.
Yep.
Start saying yes. And you can always say no. And I like to say I'll try anything once. Mm-hmm. But say yes even if it scares you.
Yeah.
And it's going to take you a lot more places.
It's powerful.
It is.
That's something that I want to do a lot more of. I like that. I'll try anything once. And sometimes, yeah, doing that you'll discover something about yourself you didn't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Another one would be pay attention to the things that scare you. Because that probably means you need to get over them because it's important. It's important for your future or your, what you're going to be doing next.
That's very powerful.
Yeah.
Like for me particularly right now, just it resonates with me. And, maybe if it scares you, kick them. I'm just kidding.
That's it.
Well, mine was public speaking.
Oh, really?
Scared me, yes. And I joined Toastmasters, which is a nonprofit organization that helps you learn how to improve and get over fears.
Wow.
Yep.
You'd never know it. You'd never know that you were afraid
And then I
of
taught
that.
communication and public speaking on the university level. So I made myself get over it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I said yes. I just kept doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming in and doing this.
And I said yes.
Yes. Yes, you did. I'm honest. I was very shocked because not that, for any negative reason, I just thought you'd be too busy to drive out here. If you remember, I was like, I'll come out to you.
Yeah.
So when I had found out you were coming here, I was like, guys, we got a big one. You guys are gonna love her. But, thank you for doing this from the bottom of my heart.
I worked in other things too, so yeah.
Hey, I mean, it works for me. So I can't thank you enough, so I'm going to stop. And we have a very simple and really ridiculous way that we end our show. And we look right there at the camera and we say, bye, guys. Can you do that with us?
Yes.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
What up, homies?
If you like the show and want more, check out patreon.com/Bledsoe said so.
This will get you exclusive weekly bonus shows and access to our Discord community with hundreds of open-minded people just like you.
If you want to represent the show, go to bledsoesaidso.com for merch. We have t-shirts, hats, hoodies, and more.
For all future updates, follow us on Instagram at Bledsoe Said So.
Same time next week.